What's up, guys? It's Lou from Unbox Therapy, and today we're going to have a little tablet showdown. The iPad 2 versus the Galaxy Tab versus the HP TouchPad. Hopefully I can help you guys figure out which tablet is going to work the best for you, and believe me, it's not the same for everyone. So first, let's look at ergonomics. The iPad 2 is very thin, very light. It sort of set the standard for what we could expect as far as a tablet's concerned. Now, it's got that traditional aspect ratio, meaning it's a little bit shorter and a little bit wider than the Galaxy Tab 10.1. As far as thickness is concerned, they're almost identical, but the edge for weight actually goes to the Samsung Galaxy Tab, which is the lightest of the bunch. Now, this 16:9 aspect ratio takes some getting used to if you're used to an iPad, but if you're into a lot of multimedia and you watch a lot of movies, then this is going to be your choice because it's going to display the whole frame as opposed to chopping it like any of these traditional aspect ratios. Here's the touchpad, and it's the fattest of the bunch. I mean, it's not so fat that you can't carry it around or anything. It's just these ones have set the bar for ergonomics, that's all. Here's a better look at how close they all are in reality. It's not a huge difference between them, but when it comes to weight, it's actually a little bit more significant. The touchpad is quite a bit heavier than the other two competitors, and I'm not really sure why. I guess it's just the way they designed it. So next, we're going to take a look at the operating system and some of the features. The iPad has a very basic operating system that most of us are used to and most of us can operate. Very little in the way of multitasking, but everything is smooth and how it should be. The Android Honeycomb interface on the Galaxy Tab is a little bit more customizable, I guess you could say. It's also got this little notification section down here along with some quick settings that you can access without sort of leaving what you're currently doing. You've got a software back button as well as a software home button. That home button will take you back to your home screen, obviously, from wherever you are. And you've also got this little tab button that'll show you all your different applications that you've got running. So it's legitimate multitasking for those of you who are power users on your tablet. You've also got your app drawer up here where you can host all your apps, and you can just pull any one of them and throw it as a shortcut onto any one of your home screens. Next, you can select your own apps. These are the ones that you've installed that aren't included by default. Lastly, we've got the touchpad. Touchpad has probably the most unique interface where you don't actually have icons on your home screen minus the little bar on the bottom. The way it works is by setting up these stacks where you can basically configure whatever it is that you want to use at any given time. It's also got a notification bar up at the top along with some quick settings including brightness, etc. That's actually similar to what the Android tablet has. You've also got this app drawer here, and it'll also allow you to navigate your settings, etc. from within that window. You always hit the home button to get back to your home. It's a physical home button similar to the one on the iPad. As far as sound is concerned, I'd probably give the nod to the HP TouchPad. It's got stereo speakers and they're significant size. These are the ones from the Galaxy Tab 10.1. They're also stereo, but they're a little smaller, a little bit tinnier in the quality of sound. And of course, the iPad's only got the one speaker, so I can't really give it the nod. You got to have stereo, I guess, if you want to compete with these other two. Next, we're going to look at the web browser. I'm going to try and simultaneously launch unboxtherapy.com. Look at that. That was tough to do. And as you guys will see, the iPad 2 actually loads the page the fastest, but there's a reason. That's because it's not loading any flash. And flash is, of course, going to bog down the CPU on any one of these tablets. Now, when it comes to the flash-based tablets, the ones that can load it, the Galaxy Tab was significantly faster than the HP TouchPad. But if you don't use flash, or you're not interested in flash, then the iPad 2 is not only going to be quicker, but it's also going to be a little bit smoother when scrolling up and down and also when pinching to zoom, etc. Not that the other ones aren't smooth, they definitely are, but I guess there's a little bit different fit and finish when using the iPad, and it's subtle but noticeable nonetheless. Here I'll give you an idea of the pinch to zoom and just how reactive it is. Actually pretty nice on all three devices. I'm impressed with all three, to be honest with you. And there's probably a lot more in common with these three devices than they have apart. You've also got the double tap to zoom in and the double tap to zoom out. Now, each of these tablets allows for you to open multiple browser windows, but they handle the process differently. On the HP TouchPad, you're forced to launch a new window in its entirety, and then from there, that new window is going to be stacked on top of your previous one, where you can only see a bit of it behind the new window on your homepage. The Android browser on Honeycomb is basically the same as Chrome, so you've just got tabs that you can see all the time in relationship to what's open and what isn't. On the iPad, you've got a slightly different scenario where you do have to back out to see what you have opened, and from there you basically get thumbnails of the different windows that you have open at any given time, but you can't see them well in the browser. So next, let's talk about YouTube. And as you guys know, the iPad can't play Flash, so if you go to youtube.com, it's basically useless to you unless you want to leave comments or, I don't know, log into your channel page or something. But the other two devices can actually play videos right on youtube.com, and that's a feature as far as I'm concerned. That's something that is very interesting to me. Now, the Galaxy Tab 10.1 is actually a little bit better performer on YouTube. You can see it's got a quicker response, etc. But to be fair, the touchpad is loading a Flash ad along with the Flash videos. So once it gets that loaded up, it'll smooth out. Now, as far as the iPad's concerned, you're going to have to launch the YouTube app. That's your only way into YouTube. And it's okay. I mean, it's really smooth. You get nice big thumbnails, etc. But there are a number of features and functions that don't exist within it. The biggest one, as far as I'm concerned, is the ability to browse by category or by top rated or top favorited. You're kind of stuck with their selections for featured videos and their selections for most viewed. And if you guys are like me, I like to avoid the most viewed on YouTube like the plague. There's really nothing I'm interested in the most viewed category. So on the Android tablet, you've actually got a dedicated YouTube interface to go with the ability to use youtube.com in its native form. And this one is actually a really nice YouTube interface because you can browse by category. You can, use some of the functions available via the web page right within the app. It's a better substitute as far as I'm concerned, even if it might not be as smooth as the iPad version. Now, the Galaxy Tab also offers a fairly unique interface for viewing your subscriptions. You can actually look at them in this three-dimensional sort of interface, which isn't the quickest thing at the moment, but cool nonetheless. And as far as the HP TouchPad is concerned, it doesn't have a dedicated YouTube app, so you're just going to go to youtube.com. Not really a big deal, but it would be nice to have the option between the app or the website. So next we'll look at the settings menu or menus of each device, and you can see that the iPad and the Galaxy Tab have very similar looking layouts, text-based layouts, whereas the HP TouchPad has more of an icon-based layout. Not a big deal. Next is the app stores, and this is really where the iPad dominates and has dominated. The selection available within the App Store is unreal. It seems untouchable, although I'm sure it isn't. The Android marketplace has been catching up a little bit at a time. And this is really where the HP is going to run into trouble. Can their App Store coexist with these other two giants? That being said, they've got a really nice layout, and they set up the groundwork for what could be a really cool App Store. I really appreciate the way they've laid it out here. It's really clean and easy to use, but like I said before, it's going to be a matter of getting the inventory of applications to compete with two very mature app markets, and in the iPad's case, an absolute behemoth. The next thing I want to talk about is the screen quality as well as the brightness, and in this particular category, the Galaxy Tab 10.1 absolutely dominates. It's by far the brightest, with the most resolution and significantly more contrast than either of these other two screens. I'd probably put the iPad 2 in second place to it, but the blacks are significantly darker on here and the whites are significantly whiter. What else could you ask for in a screen? Anyway, guys, let's talk about the keyboards too, because that's important. You're going to be typing a lot on these things. And to be honest with you, they're all a lot more similar than they are different. But one thing I do want to mention is that when using the Galaxy Tab 10.1, that interesting aspect ratio allows for your thumbs to be closer together in portrait mode. So thumb typing is a little bit easier. It's still possible on the iPad too, but if you have smaller hands, you might not be able to reach those middle keys. In my case, it's not really an issue. In landscape mode, they're all really nice big keyboards, really easy to use and ultra responsive. I think that the Honeycomb tablet actually has the biggest keyboard in landscape mode. That's obviously a byproduct, again, of that unusual aspect ratio, or at least unusual for the time being. It could very well become the standard in years to come. Who knows? And here's the iPad's landscape keyboard. Big, giant buttons. Pretty difficult to miss. I'm pretty sure you'll find any one of these tablets easy to type on. So next I'll talk about the cameras. The touchpad only has a forward-facing camera for video chat. The other two have a rear-facing camera. But honestly, guys, don't buy these things for the cameras. They're not great quality. You're going to be better pulling your smartphone out of your pocket, or your dedicated camera for that matter. But just for the sake of comparison, the Galaxy Tab does have a shitload more features than the iPad 2. It's got a bunch of different configuration utilities here. You can pick out a bunch of different stuff, and the iPad camera is basically point and shoot, and that's about it. So even though these cameras suck, I guess I have to mention it. So lastly, let's talk about the email clients. After all, email is a big part of what you'll probably end up doing on any one of these tablets. The iPad email interface is very straightforward, very simple to use. And as you see, you get a slightly different look from the landscape interface. You can delete or archive messages, and you can also run multiple mailboxes. When you go to compose an email, this little window comes up here. Fairly easy to use, fairly straightforward, and actually surprisingly similar to the Android email app, the Gmail app over here. Except for the fact that you get an older and newer sort of way to scroll through your emails on this particular app. But again, you have multiple inboxes, and when you go to compose an email, it looks almost identical to when you do so on iOS. This is where the touchpad is sort of in its own zone. I think that its email app is probably the best out there. That's because it allows you to work on multiple emails at the same time. And if you're like me, you got emails flying left, right, and center. That's a useful feature. So maybe if you're a business guy and this thing is going to be an email machine for you, then the touchpad could easily become your first choice just based on this email functionality right here. Anyway, guys, here's the way I see it. If this is your first tablet, you're coming from a traditional computer, I say go for the iPad 2. The reason I say that is because the transition is going to be the easiest, and you're going to get the most mature tablet experience that's on the market right now. If you want to be cutting edge and you want the latest in hardware and you want a more customizable experience, maybe you're a little bit more savvy, then I say, hey, go for the Galaxy Tab 10.1 or an Android platform tablet. And lastly, if this is all business, if you're going to use this thing mainly for email, then I would say go with the touchpad because I do believe it has the most sophisticated email client. If you guys found this content to be helpful or enjoyable in any way, then do me a favor and visit the channel. I've got a lot more content over there that you'll probably find enjoyable. And you could do even one better and hit that subscribe button. After all, it's our subscriber base, our little mini community that keeps this content rolling. Anyway, guys, until next time, thanks for watching.